Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Lola. Lola
Good
West
morning.
is my guest, and I'm so excited to have her here. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. I'm going to read a little bit of her bio because it's kind of long. She's done a lot of things, but let me tell you a little bit about her. Lola C. West is the co founder, chairwoman, and chief cultural officer of WestFuller Advisors. She began her wealth management career in 2000 at Merrill Lynch, and after leaving Merrill Lynch, WestFuller was established in 2011. It took several careers to land one that fulfilled her purpose, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about. What's the driving force, right, that keeps us moving and finding that purpose and empowering people around money and the understanding of it. Again, I don't know if you've been teaching in schools, but God knows we need it at every single level, this education, right?
Tina, that was one of the things I recommended when I spoke at the White House. They asked me how would I look at the wealth gap and how could we do something about it. And I said, you can't change 250 years of compounded interest, but what you can do is to have financial literacy taught in schools from kindergarten through high school and then again in college because we really have somewhat of a functionally illiterate
Yes,
citizenry when it comes to money.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, Lola serves on 5 nonprofit boards, including New York Women's FDN. What does FDN stand for?
Foundation, New York Women's
Foundation.
Foundation.
Okay. Including the New York Women's Foundation, Souls Grown Deep Foundation, Donors of Color Network, and the Roosevelt Institute, and the new 3 R's. What's the new 3 R's?
It's an educational program that teaches children about their history and using artifacts and stories and having children tell their own stories to one another.
Beautiful, beautiful. And she resides on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Place very, very close to my heart. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. So, I have a couple questions, and I usually begin with the same question, and then we kind of can go from there. How's that sound?
Fabulous.
Okay. So, we're going to ask you to tell us a little bit about your family background, your family of origin, and the purpose of doing this, and the purpose of Under the Hood is we work on the premise that patterns that are created in childhood impact us as grown-ups, good, bad, and otherwise. How we deal with conflict, how we deal with so many different issues. So tell us a little bit about your history.
This is really interesting because I find that generations later, this is no longer how it is.
Mm.
I would ask my mother why whenever she told me to do something. And her answer was because
Because
I
I
said
said
so.
so. How did I guess?
Kids don't get that nowadays. My mother was not my friend. She was the person who taught me to be the person I am today. If my mother asked me a question, she said, "Well, Lola, what do you think?" Even when I was 5 years old, I would look at her and say, "I don't know." And she says, "What do you want me to do? Crawl up in your brain and figure it out for you?" And in addition to that, I also knew that she was not going to accept a stupid answer. So I had to think about what I was going to say. And it really was the development that I had interacting with my mother that got me how to ask questions, answer questions, speak, and be
Yes.
clear. Because my mother
Yes.
also had a thing about diction.
Mm-hmm.
We were always the joking stock of our friends because we would say aunt. We were not allowed to say aunt because my mother's sister would say to me, I am not an aunt. Do you understand? And she'd show a picture of an aunt. She says, I'm an aunt. I'm a human being. So it was the type of discipline that existed. And after all, I will be 78 in 2 weeks. So it's quite a while ago. But I think some of that is missing because nowadays I find parents want to be friends with their
Yes.
children. You are not their friend. You are
Correct.
here as their
Yes.
guide. And if you don't guide them, who will? Because then they banty about in society, and we have to deal with those people who have
Yes.
no grounding and no understanding of what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, because their parents let them do anything they wanted to do.
Yes. And we are all paying for this, right? As a society, right? You and I had that conversation, when we first talked. So where did you grow up? Did you grow up north, south, east,
I
west?
am
Where?
I am a fifth generation New Yorker. I was born at Brooklyn Hospital. I graduated from Brooklyn College. It was pretty bad. I'm a New Yorker through and through.
Through and through.
Through and through. Yes. And I grew up, and my family's origin on my father's side, that's where the five generations from New York come. And on my mother's side, my mother was the first in her family to be born in America. They originated from St. Kitts and
Hmm.
Bermuda.
Interesting. Really, really interesting. So these were the wonderful things that you grew up with and developed and took you again to where you are. What were some of the patterns or behaviors that didn't work so well that you had to kind of take a look at and make some adjustments?
Um, One of them at an early age was the fact that we went to church on Sunday. And one of the things I learned by going to church on Sunday is that there are certain behaviors
Mhm.
that you need to exhibit in order to not get your butt whooped when you got home. So I learned how to sit still. I learned how to respond to looks from my grandmother and my mother, which meant that I needed to stop doing what I was doing. I took those things through life and I used them to figure out as I grew what were the behaviors that worked. Not that
Mhm.
it got people to smile at you, but it at least got them to acknowledge your presence so that they treated you like you were a human being and
Mhm.
that you had some sense in the matter. So I've always been respectful of people, and one of the things that I've grown up with, and I say this to my employees and to everybody, I treat people the way I want to be treated.
The
That's
golden rule,
really
right?
it matters, and it's created a life of ease for me in relationships with people
Mhm.
because I want them to respect me the way I respect them. If you can't do that, then we don't need to dialogue. It's very
Exactly.
simple.
Yeah.
And I also feel energy easily, so there's certain people I won't eat with
Mhm.
because it gives me indigestion.
I gotcha. We come from the same cloth.
Oh yeah, no, I really much prefer the old days. I'm serious. I don't know where we're going
Mhm.
with the behaviors that are being exhibited. I don't know. Youth give up freedoms so easily to have everything automated that in the process their lives are going to be much more restricted
Right, because
because
what you were talking about, Lola, you were talking about what your mother really kind of challenged you to do is critical thinking,
absolutely
right?
she was
Like,
not going to do it for me.
yes.
And that's what happens when parents try and make friends with their kids. Their kids don't understand how to think because you agree with everything they do and you love them so much that every failure is a success. I mean, what in the almighty?
So how, just give us a little from your childhood, Brooklyn College, what did you major in? What was your major?
Uh, psychology and sociology, and then I went on to get a master's in urban planning. And I worked at City Planning Commission in New York. It was a 2-year degree, a master's in urban planning. And what I realized was that I would not do well in a bureaucracy because people would just let stuff slide and, oh, the other person will do it. And I knew that I couldn't exist in that because I had standards and always standards of excellence, because I hold myself to doing my best all the time, because I don't ever want to be in the situation where I've done something and it's not turned out well, and then I say to myself, well, if only you had. So I take that out, and then I realize that when you do your very best and the outcome is not what you wish, then you realize that it wasn't for you in the first place. Because what's meant for you really can't be taken away from you. That's just a belief I hold. So if I always do my very best, I'm good with the outcome.
So does this kind of fall into a perfectionist kind of mentality?
No.
Does it never get in your way? No.
I'll give you an example of doing my best. I'd worked on a proposal as a consultant, and we got it all done, but it had to be postmarked by the end of the day. And I had the report in hand, and I was getting ready to take the elevator, and the elevator wouldn't come. I knew I would not get downstairs in time, waiting for the elevator. So I go back in and I go to tell the person who's in charge, well, the elevator's not working. And then I said to myself, it has to be postmarked. So I ran down the steps and I got it postmarked. Right. You just do what you need to do. Yes. And that's what I mean about doing my very best. I could have blamed it on the elevator.
So what you're talking about, Lola, and you and I are the same age, and we come from very, very similar backgrounds, in terms of the parenting that we got, right? And so over time, these things become very instilled, and they become second nature. You know, to be able to see, well, this isn't working. All right, so I'm a problem solver. How am I going to solve the problem? And it comes actually automatically at a certain point where you stop blaming other people and depending that they're going to do it for you, right?
I'll give you an example of that. I was a hospital administrator. I was 30 years old. I was in charge of a staff of about 88 people. I was a little out of my depth, but I talked myself into the job. So I could not mess up. Okay? So we're in a staff meeting, and I've got professionals, doctors, nurses, health aides, therapists, physical, occupational, and so forth. So we're sitting down at a meeting, and we've had some instances where the staff has just not been doing their work. Trying to figure out how to fix this. And I started out with like mandating what should be done. And then I asked, just intuitively, I said to one of the supervisors, I said, what would you do in this case? So then she started talking about it. But then we also always had staff representatives who were not supervisors. Because for me, to be able to figure out what's going on at the lowest level actually makes the job work. Okay?
Yes.
So I then asked a couple of the employees, I said, well, what do you think should happen when an instance like this does? And their response was so good. I was like, light bulb went off, and I said, you know what? We're going to let the staff figure out the punishment for the crime.
Yes. Yes.
And because they had ownership of it,
yes,
their response was completely different. It changed the entire course in that particular place where I was working. to the point where this was at a facility in Staten Island, and we actually had a group come over running the same kind of facility in London,
Mm-hmm.
came over to observe what we were doing. And it was something that got adopted because people are harder on themselves than you can ever be.
Yes. Yes. And we talk to ourselves in a way that nobody would ever talk to us. Yes.
Exactly. So when
Yes.
people just do stuff awry, people who are experiencing that have to take on more work. They have to do other things to the people who are not working. So when they got in the mix, Tina, I can't tell you how different everything was.
I
It ran
understand.
smoother.
So that experience, I'm guessing that you've taken that through your leadership, in everything that you have done since. Is that correct?
I absolutely have, and I also, at this point in my career, I give a book to every new staff person. And the book
Mhm.
is The Four Agreements by
Mhm.
Don
Mhm. Miguel.
Miguel
Yes.
Ruiz,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
because I read that book when it came out in 1997, and
Mhm.
I have lived my life according to it. I
Yes.
don't ever say I'll try, because
Yes.
that just means you're looking for an excuse, so don't bother.
Yes. So let me ask you this: in terms of your company today, and I know you have how many employees? You,
20.
20. Okay. So when conflict arises in this organization, your organization, how do you deal with it?
We, well, first of all, everybody's read the Four Agreements. That doesn't mean they're living their life by it. We have process reviews with people. And when
Mm-hmm.
an incident comes up, we speak to both parties involved.
Mm-hmm.
We figure out how it started, where it's going, and what's the remedy we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
We have HR, which is key because with the way I do things, we could probably get sued because you can't say the things that people say now. So the
Mm-hmm.
process is somewhat different because there are so many protective issues that if you say the wrong thing, somebody's ready to sue you.
I know.
So, yeah. So what we do is we look at that in the hiring process with people by the questions that we ask. Because in an interview, you can ask somebody, how do you deal with conflict?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know, do you think you're always right? There's something about having staff nowadays, and our staff really are some of the best and the brightest.
Mm-hmm.
And the best and the brightest bring other issues with them
Yes, they
because the
do.
best and the
Brightest
brightest
feel
do things
entitled.
differently and feel entitled. So it's a constant conversation, and I speak to staff every week.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do as a chief culture officer
Right.
because it's important for me to figure out what's going on with the staff. And it's an open conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only about work. We talk about anything we want to talk about. And that kind of interchange with staff, with one of the founders, really is a different way of interacting
Yes.
and totally unexpected.
Well, a lot of what you're talking about is what you implement is emotional intelligence. You are emotionally intelligent as a leader. Sometimes it's natural for people, sometimes it's not as natural, but it is, especially in today's world, it is imperative. And part of what I do, why I do what I do, is to bring this subject very much to light. Because I have in one of my talks, Lola, I have a little triangle. How many of you have gone to school and studied in degrees? And everybody raises their hand. How many of you have taken this degree and put it into your work and strategized how you're going to get there? Everybody raises their hand. Okay, so how many of you have put the same energy into the mental side, which drives everything, right? And all the hands go down.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So, I've interviewed men, women, young, older, and those that we say in our family, do they get it?
Yes.
If they get it, um, they drive with what you're talking about. And if not, as you know, these young people will leave you faster than boom. They're already doing their resumes the day that they get hired. They're already
Oh,
going.
I want a raise in the first 6 weeks.
Oh yes, yes, and and I should be the manager of blah 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 blah, and so on and so forth. So let me ask you this: I love this conversation, and I know you and I can talk a lot, and
And
we will continue.
I appreciate that you do this, Tina, because it
Thank
matters.
you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Yeah, when we talk about passion and things, you and I are exactly the same age, 2 weeks apart. I just had a
Wow.
birthday. And we have a lot, our generation has a lot
Mhm.
to offer. And I am the only one of my friends that's still working and probably more passionate than ever.
Exactly.
Right?
I would say that's about right with me too.
Yeah. So before we end, what is your biggest challenge that you do? You sort of alluded to them. If you could just kind of put it in a little,
The big
framework.
challenge in the biggest challenge I've seen in my entire lifetime is the damage that this president is doing to the country by his behavior. Because
Yeah.
what he's done is embolden the good and crazy to be good and crazy and positional about it.
Yeah.
And that is one of the saddest things I've ever seen. And I am waiting for some grown up to stand up and say, you can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that it will be decades before we truly understand the damage that this man is causing by his behavior, by his lying. He has set us back decades. And the hardest thing for me to deal with this is how our young people are internalizing it,
Mm-hmm.
how it affects them, how
Mm-hmm.
they will lead their lives, what will their purpose be, and it should not be to be as horrible as he is. But he's making that normative, and the damage is inestimable.
Yes. Hey, as we were talking and as you were saying, we are in a very, very difficult time, to say the very least. And then it comes back to what can we do? What can we do?
What I've been doing is I'm beginning to talk to people more about what is happening because I think people are afraid to talk about it because they
Mm-hmm.
don't know what to do about it. So we can only do what's before us. We can petition our Congress people. We can do what we can in terms of sending letters. But in all honesty, it's some of it is like maybe we should do a campaign of writing to the previous presidents. Someone's got to stand up and say
Yes,
what is
this is
happening.
wrong.
The fact that the Supreme Court constantly supports this man really makes it feel like we have no choice. I find it hard to take that as the notion. So I
Mm-hmm.
talk to people as much as I can about things that we can do, like supporting certain causes, writing
Mm-hmm.
letters, and educating people because I can't believe that our democracy will be destroyed just like that, that we're going to fulfill history and we know better. So the lack of education is not acceptable for me. We have dumbed down education in America. I graduated from high school in 1965.
65.
I would say maybe that was the best education
Mine
that
too.
public schools had.
Yeah.
And now it's just, I shudder to think when I was out of college and I was doing consultant work for the Elementary Early School Education Act. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was in third grade classes in 1973 where the children could not read and they were still being promoted. So it started a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we
You're right.
now are in a position where it's almost laughable that they are now going to take away HB1 visas from people who come here to work because we don't have an educated populace to do some of the jobs that we have. So all of this is absolute insanity. And the fact that you're going to take four executives in the tech world and make them lieutenant colonels in the armed forces, what is going on?
I know.
And people are
I
not talking about this because we're getting hit with it so frequently that people are worn out, and that's the object. But you cannot
yes.
get worn out
No. No.
because
We
this is
can't.
not going to bode well, and I think people are missing the point. I don't want to wake up 10 years from now and the democracy truly is gone.
Yeah.
But that's where we're heading.
Okay. So we have a lot of work to do, don't we?
We absolutely do. And we can do the work because you see the demonstrations are working.
yes.
They have to be more and more and more. I Tina, in a way I don't know because the things that we did growing up, that's not there now. You cannot win a revolution by posting on social media.
No.
That's
No, you can't. I think we're going to end this wonderful conversation on that note. and, and encourage our viewers and our people and our friends and to speak up, to teach, to whatever we can do. And you and I can talk a little bit more and
hmm
think of some things maybe that we can do.
But we're
Um,
doing something by doing this podcast right here because people will listen to it, and I hope it helps people to realize that we are bigger than they are, and
yes,
we need to let them know that. It's a
yes,
very minute portion, and I
yes.
think he has done enough that he's going to start to lose that portion.
From your mouth to God's ears, right?
Yes. Thank
So Lola,
you.
how can people get in touch with you?
Well, the website address is www.westfulleradvisors.com. So
Hmm.
it's
And
West.
we didn't even really talk about what you do in your profession. So do you want to
And
just kind of give us a little snippet?
we are a wealth management firm. Uh, I've been in the business now 25 years. I brought someone in half my age in 2005, and we've formed West Fuller. Those are our last names. We now manage approximately 3 billion in the private wealth management, and then with our OCIO business, which is outsourced chief investment officer, we work with mission aligned foundations, and in that business, we work mainly with nonprofits and small
Beautiful,
family offices. And it's the
beautiful.
joy of a lifetime to support people in understanding building their financial wealth.
And I have a feeling that many of the things and the companies that you work with also are there to make impact, social
Absolutely.
impact. How did I guess?
Mission alignment equals the impact.
Yeah,
And those are for the nonprofits who have decided that it matters what they do and that they want to show an impact in the world. It's so
beautiful,
crucial. Yes.
beautiful. Thank you so much for being my guest. And I
Thank
look forward to more conversations.